live. Okay, it should be live, Marie. Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Sarah Kelly, and I am the director of the Worcester Music Academy. And today we are going to be talking about piano lessons and what they are like, what's involved, all that fun stuff. I do just tell you all in advance, forgive us for any technology issues. This is our first time doing something like this. So if something goes wrong, I do apologize ahead of time. So today we have one of our piano teachers with us, Sam. Sam, you want to wave to everybody? And yeah, Sam's been with us for almost 2 years now, I think. And he's a wonderful person and musician. He teaches all different styles of music. Piano is not his only instrument. He does piano, like classical piano, but jazz piano and accordion as well. So he's going to give a little presentation in a minute about piano. Marie, the other person in the top corner, is my administrative assistant, and she is going to also be helping us monitor the chat feature. So if you do have questions throughout the presentation today, feel free to just put them in the chat, either on Facebook or in Zoom. And if it's something that Marie or I can answer via chat, we will do so while Sam is talking. Otherwise, if it's like a more specific question along the lines of anything Sam is talking about or something specific to the piano, we will just save those to the end and have like the official Q&A session at the end. So I just wanted to quickly give you a brief overview of the Worcester Music Academy. This is our 10th anniversary this year, and we have a variety of lesson plans that we offer. So you can do a 10-month plan, you can do a 3-month plan, or you can do our month-to-month plan. Marie is going to put a link into the chat about where you can learn more about the different lesson plans, the rates for the lessons. We, of course, can answer any questions about that or talk with you more if you have specific questions about that, but I encourage you to check that out. We also offer online classes, so if you want to check out our classes page, Marie will put a link into that as well. And then we'll also put a link to our registration page so you can learn more about that. So this year we are doing lessons online as opposed to in-person lessons due to COVID this year, but they are working out very well, and encourage anybody who's been a little hesitant to embark on online lessons to give it a try. We do offer a free trial lesson. It's a 30-minute free trial lesson. So you can try out a lesson before you commit to it, just to make sure it's the right fit for you. And one last thing, anybody who does join us and signs up for lessons at the end of our session, we are doing a special offer. We are currently running a holiday promotion in which we are waiving our annual registration fee if you sign up for lessons in the month of December, so before our December break. So in between now and December 22nd, we are waiving that $50 registration fee. But on top of that, for those who are joining us and watching this video today, we are also offering 10% off your first month of lessons. So that particular offer is valid for 1 week from today, so through next Tuesday. Then we'll go over this again at the end. So just wanted to put that out there while you're listening. So with that, sorry, that's my dog in the background. She's saying hi. We are going to turn it over to Sam, and he is going to tell you all about piano lessons. Oh, Sam, you're going to want to unmute yourself. Nope, you're still muted.
Sorry.
There you go.
Can you hear me now? All right. So first of all, I'd like to start out talking about the great piano teachers that we have at Worcester Music Academy. I'm kind of blown away by the amount of talent and and experience that our teachers have. So I'm just going to give you a rundown on them. If you want to know more, you can look on the website. If you look under faculty, the word faculty is a live link, and if you click on it, you can get to the whole biography of each teacher. So I'll just run them down quickly. Ken Richards is a very experienced musician, very talented. He's both a voice teacher at Worcester Music Academy and a piano teacher. And he also plays organ in addition to piano. And in fact, he plays the church organ at St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Worcester, which is where I go to church. And he conducts the choir. He also has a wonderful singing voice and is a great singer. So next one I'll mention is Maya Khoury. She is very experienced in both piano and music theory. Then we have Hansani Archibald, who is really experienced in composition. He studied composition in music school, and so he knows a lot about composition and theory in addition to piano. Then we have Kevin Song. He's a classically trained pianist. And he's a bit unusual because when he was in college, he was actually a pre-med major. But he became more and more interested in playing piano and became a classical pianist. And I've heard him play in concerts, and he's just super. And then there's me. As Sarah mentioned, I have a lot of varied experience. I've played in a lot of different musical groups. Folk music, not so much classical, but I am trained in classical music. I've played in jazz groups, and currently I'm in a duo with my wife. We do Cajun music, and lately we've started doing Irish music. So we do a lot of folk music in that duo. She plays fiddle in that duo. Okay. So now let's move on and talk about the piano. The piano is a great instrument, and I really commend your choice if you're interested in the piano, because it's so versatile. It can play just about any different style of music, and it's great at playing both accompaniment and melody at the same time. So instead of just playing a single note like many other instruments, you can accompany other instruments. You can also accompany yourself on the piano. And I sometimes do performances where I sing while I'm playing the piano. So it's a wonderfully versatile instrument. Also, for learning, it's really easy to see what you're doing because it's all laid out in front of you. See, here's my keyboard. There it is, all the way from a very low note to a very high note. And that is also something that's special about the piano because it has the largest range from low to high of any single instrument. So it can play things that a lot of instruments can't play. Okay, so having said that, you probably are curious if you don't already have an instrument about what kind of instrument you should get. So if you have a keyboard instrument, you're all set for lessons because we can make just about anything work with an instrument that you already have. So if you have a quote unquote real piano with strings and hammers and all that, that's great. You probably have a beautiful sounding instrument. But those instruments are require some periodic maintenance. You have to get them tuned periodically. If you have a used piano, it may need repair and that sort of thing. And also pianos are large and heavy. So it's a big deal to move a piano. And you should really, if you have to move it, it should really be done professionally. Okay, so some people who are interested in taking piano lessons don't have an instrument already. So I can give you a few guidelines as to what to get. One thing you should avoid, if you can, is getting a keyboard because those lack many of the features of a real piano. This one here is what's called a digital piano, and it has a lot of the same features as a real piano, except that it's electronic. It imitates the sound and feel of a real piano. So I can play really soft, or I can play loud. Okay, that's what you want, because a lot of technique in piano is associated with learning to play loud and soft. Crescendo, decrescendo, louder, softer. That's what gives you a lot of expression in playing the piano. And digital pianos are also touch sensitive. You can play soft, you can play loud, you can play staccato, or you can play legato. Okay, and these pianos are not that expensive. They around $500 you can get something that's really good. And if you're in the market for one, this is a good time of year to buy one, because there are all these holiday sales right now. So you can get them on Amazon. There's a few companies I know, Sweetwater, Musician's Friend. There's a lot of different places that sell digital pianos. Another important function that the digital piano has that a real piano has is called the damper pedal. This allows the sound to continue after you stop playing the note. See, the sound continues. As soon as I let up the pedal, it stops. So digital pianos have that. If you get a digital piano, you may have to get a stand for it, but that's not a very expensive item. That's like a $50 item. And another thing about it is make sure that the digital piano you get has an internal speaker, because otherwise you're going to have to get a separate sound system for it. So most of them do have internal speakers, but some don't. So make sure you read the fine print if you're going to buy one. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about what piano lessons are like. So currently our lessons are Zoom lessons, and you know how to use Zoom. If you're connecting to this this presentation using Zoom, Zoom is really easy to get. You can use it on just about any platform, a laptop, a tablet, even a cell phone. You can use Zoom on. So we're currently using Zoom and doing all of our lessons online because of the pandemic. So at some point, we do want to go back to doing online lessons, but we're not going to do that until it's safe. Okay, so how do you set this up? Well, I have my laptop set up high, so it's kind of pointing down at the keys. So you can see me playing the keys. So that's what you want. It's not so important that you see the teacher's face. You can see that my head is cut off right now, right? So when I want to talk to the student, I just do this, and then I can talk to them. If I want to demonstrate something on the keyboard, I do this. Okay. So you want to have the light source behind you. Basically, it's the same as you would do for any kind of a Zoom connection. Same type of lighting. The lighting should be behind the camera and not facing into the camera. Okay, now one thing about Zoom lessons that has not been figured out yet is how to do simultaneous playing of the student and the teacher. So a lot of piano method books have pieces that have a teacher's part and a student's part that are designed to be played together. And we can't do that with Zoom because there's a delay. The sound takes a while to get from the source to the recipient. However, what I found that I can do is I can record the teacher's part on my cell phone and then just send it to the family of the student, and then they can take the recording and play along with the recording on their own. So so far that's working pretty well. Okay, so now let's talk about what piano lessons are really like. What do you do in a piano lesson? First of all, there's a couple of assumptions. The student should listen to the teacher and follow the teacher's instructions. And the student really should stay seated at the piano for the whole lesson, unless they need to get something. You know, if they need to get something, if they need to go to the bathroom, if they need to get a drink of water, that's okay. But otherwise, they should stay at the piano for the whole lesson. And if possible, it should be the lesson should be in a room that's quiet for the duration of the lesson, with not too many distractions, if possible. For beginning students, and especially younger students, it's a good idea to have a parent present for the first few lessons, especially when you're figuring out how to get the connection thing to work and what's a good setup. Okay, so the first lesson would be something like this. I would say, okay, let's get to know the piano. The student would be seated at the piano, or the student would be seated at their piano in the case of a Zoom lesson. And what I usually say is, what do you notice about the piano keys? And student says, oh, well, there's black keys and there are white keys. And then the next thing I'd say is, well, are the keys organized into any kind of pattern? And they usually can recognize that the black keys are in groups of 2s and 3s. 2, 3, 2, 3. Okay, so then I say, well, what's different about the keys that are at the right end of the piano and the left end of the piano? So the ones at the right end are high, and the ones at the left end are low. Okay, and then we find the middle of the piano, and there's a special note there. It's right next to 2 black keys that are in the middle of the piano. It's just to the left of them, and that's middle C. And when we start playing pieces, those pieces are centered around middle C. And knowing where middle C is, you can figure out where all the other C's are, because there's a repeating pattern. The C is located to the left of each group of 2. So this is the kind of thing that we do to get the students oriented to the keyboard. Okay, and then we talk about things like how to sit at the piano. You should sit straight with your back straight, and if possible, with your feet on the floor. Some students are too little yet to have their feet on the floor, but they should still sit up straight. And you should be able to have your arms at your sides, not out like this, not back here like this, but just relaxed at your sides. And your fingers should be curved. And this is a big thing in playing the piano, because if your fingers are straight, they're all different lengths, right? So if I put my fingers like this, I can't put my thumb on the keyboard at all. But if I curve my fingers, they're all the same length. And I have special little exercises that I use to teach them to do that. I used to say, put your fingers over your knees so your fingers are curved, and then hold your hands up. So then they get to the piano and they put their fingers like this. They put their fingers flat. So that doesn't work. So I have special little exercises that I have them do. I don't do a lot of that at first. I just tell them that's the idea. Their wrists should be floppy. It shouldn't be stiff, and they shouldn't be playing the piano with their arm like this. So then the next thing we do after we've talked a little bit about that is we learn some tunes. They will have a music book. If they don't have a music book for the first lesson, I'll scan the music that we're going to do and I'll send it to the parents. And then after that, we'll end with a summary, and I'll review what we learned and tell them a little bit about what to do when they get home and how to practice. So practicing is important, because at the next lesson, I'm going to ask them, what did you practice this week? And ask them also if any questions came up while they were practicing, did they not, was there something that they didn't understand or that they wanted to know more about? And then I have them play what they practiced. Okay, and then I suggest improvements if they need improvements. I correct technique for future practice, and if they do really well on a piece, I can't give them stickers, but I have these big stars. So what I do is I send them a star. Okay, so I'm going to send you guys all a star. Here it comes. Did you get it? See? I like the smiles. I always get smiles when I do that. So that's how. And actually, one of my students, I sent him stickers because he really loved stickers. So he's got a sheet of stickers, and when he does well on a piece and he's finished with it, I say, okay, you can put a sticker on that one. Okay. So subsequent lessons, um, usually we after we go over what they practiced, if it needs to be practiced for another week, we do that. I suggest some new tunes and we go over new tunes. And then I sort of summarize and set the expectations for practicing for the next lesson. So that's about it. That's how lessons go. One thing I forgot to mention is you do periodically have to buy music for the students. Music is not real expensive. Sheet music is, you know, compared to a lot of other things, it's really quite inexpensive. And so, you know, they start off with a simple book and then they gradually advance. And when they advance to a certain level, they go to a new level in the books. So that's about it. And
Awesome.
you know, if you have any questions, I'll answer them, or Sarah can answer them.
And that was great. Thanks, Sam. That was very informative. I did just want to follow up on a couple of your things. So for books, since you were just finished up with that, um, we have a bunch, like he mentioned, a bunch of different piano teachers, and they all use different method books. So usually after the first lesson, they will make recommendations for what they might think is best for you for your lessons. And he was right. The chip books are very inexpensive. There are even some probably free options out there these days as well that you can download online. Um, for lessons, we are doing private lessons right now. In the past, when we were doing in-person lessons, we did have a group piano class for 4 to 6 year olds. That's a little bit difficult for us to do in an online setting, but when we do return back to in-person lessons, eventually that's a class that we will definitely offer again because it was always very popular. So for right now, it's just one-on-one private lessons that we offer for piano. Um, a lot of times people ask, well, how old can you be to start lessons? And we've started piano lessons as early as 5 years old, going all the way through adults. And we've even had some students start before the age of 5. We do have one of our voice teachers, Rachel, who also does some piano as well, and she loves working with the really young kids. So if anybody out there has super young kids like 3, 4, or 5 who are interested in getting involved in music, and aren't necessarily interested in like our toddler music class, we can certainly set up private lessons for you. It's going to be more of a general type of music class, but Rachel can certainly introduce things like basic piano stuff, some very basic singing things. So we can get you started really young. If you have 2 family members doing them together, we could certainly try to do that, especially if they're in the same room. Sam, what are your thoughts on that? Having like a grandmother and a 10-year-old together for a lesson, learning together. Did you hear the question, Sam?
Uh,
Oh, sorry. We have a question about, is it possible to do like a lesson for like a 10-year-old with her grandmother in one lesson, like as a group lesson, like with the two of them?
Yeah, my problem is that I can't see the chat questions. I didn't think, oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So one thing that might come up if you try to combine lessons with that, like that, is that they might advance at different rates. So it might be difficult after a while to do both of them in the same lesson. So
Mhm.
because you would want to give um, appropriate attention to what each student needs, and those needs might be different as time went on.
Mhm.
So I would have to think about that. That's what I think the main problem would be, is that they might advance at different rates or have different needs. Because I tailor the lessons to each student. If I see that a student needs a particular aspect of piano playing stressed, I'll spend more time on that. But everybody's different.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's something we could maybe explore, maybe start out together, and then, at that point, we could, once they started going off of their separate paths, we could, talk about it then as well. For singing, doing singing and piano lessons together, absolutely. We do have both of our voice teachers also do piano. So for a 10-year-old, we could certainly get her started doing both in a lesson. It might be something where we would recommend you doing a slightly longer lesson, say a 45-minute lesson instead of a 30-minute lesson, just so she's getting both piano time and voice time in there. We've also had some students who do only do 30-minute lessons, and maybe one week they're doing piano and the next week they're doing voice. So, there's a couple different options for how to make that work if you're doing two instruments in one lesson. Um, Sam, I frequently get asked, how long does it take to learn my instrument? Like, if I wanted to take piano lessons, how long would it take before I know how to play the piano? How would you
Well,
answer that question?
I'm still learning how to play the piano.
Yeah.
And I don't think it ever ends. The more you learn, the more you realize what you don't know. And so if you want to know when you would be able to play a piece of music that you could play for the family or something like that, after the first lesson, you would be able to play something. Um, more to sort of after about a month, you could play something like Old MacDonald. Okay. Um, so, you don't want to just have students work on technique because that's a drag. You want them to be able to do something fun. Okay. And the most fun thing on the piano is to play a piece, to play a tune, right? So we want to get them started on that as soon as possible. So if you want to know how long will it take me before I can play a tune on the piano, right away, right away.
Yeah. And everybody has different goals as well. So, it depends on, do you want to be a concert pianist? Well, like, it's going to be a lifetime endeavor. But, if you just want to learn a song that you'd like to hear on the radio, it might not be so long. Um, I did just want to touch on a couple things Sam said. So he did mention we do lessons on Zoom. We do lessons on different platforms as well. Each teacher sort of decides what platform works best for them. Some teachers are using Zoom, some are using Skype, Google Duo, Google Meet. So there is options. I know several teachers are using many different options, and they usually coordinate with their students to see which works best for you. So you don't have to be confined only to Zoom. There's other options there. Um, and the other thing about pianos, I know Sam had mentioned, you don't need to get a whole real piano for your lessons. And he did mention like getting a good digital keyboard could be around $500. That might sound daunting. That might be more than you're expecting to invest, especially if you have young children and you don't know how long they're going to stick with something like that. Even though we definitely encourage you to get a full-size keyboard, which is 88 keys with weighted keys, we know that might not be completely feasible for you. So, you want to not get just a kid's toy piano, because that's really not going to work for lessons. If you do, you just want to start out with like a non-weighted keyboard that's 66 keys as opposed to 88 keys. We can definitely work with that in lessons until you feel comfortable that you or your child are going to make the commitment to do lessons for a longer period of time before you make that bigger commitment. And then, Sam, a question for you. So, we haven't touched on practicing. Obviously, practicing is a very important part of music lessons. You can't just go to your lesson each week and not practice in between, or else you won't get better. How much time do you recommend your students for practicing each week?
I think it's better to practice a little bit every day than to wait until the day before the lesson or the day of the lesson and say, "Oh, I didn't practice this week. I have to practice a lot." So that doesn't work. So a little bit every day. How much? A little bit? Well, it depends on what you're practicing. Um, but I would say a minimum of 10 to 15 minutes. A half hour would be better. I think for a beginning student, that's probably enough.
Mm-hmm.
And as often as you can during the week, every day if possible.
Yeah, that's great. And I would say, if you find 30 minutes is too much to practice at one given time, for your different activities or schoolwork, homework, whatever it might be, I also teach flute as my instrument, and I'm also always encouraging my students to break it up into smaller sessions if they need to, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes here, even as a homework break or something like that, just to get the minutes in, because consistency is definitely more important than doing it at the last minute, like Sam said. And I can speak from experience that every teacher knows when their student has not practiced, and knows when they're just kind of showing up and just sight reading on the spot. And so, and if you have questions about practicing, it's always good to talk to your teacher about it, because he or she may have some good tips for you on how to encourage your child to practice. Because, I can tell you, nobody really likes to practice. I mean, that's the simple truth of the matter. And especially young kids, they have a hard time with it. And I oftentimes get parents saying to me, I really don't want to like be forcing them to practice. It's something I want them to be doing on their own. If they're not going to practice, then I don't want them taking lessons. And, I think you just have to realize that this is an investment on both the, not only the student's part, but the parents' part as well, to help with the practicing, encourage them to practice, talking with the teacher about what should they be practicing, how should they be practicing, because practicing is more than just playing the notes on the page and just saying, okay, I practiced. And that is not a silly question at all about learning to read music. That is absolutely included in your music lessons. So
Yep.
every book, beginning piano book, you're learning how to read real musical notation almost from the beginning. They might start with finger numbers first, but very, very quickly after that, we learn how to read music. Any other questions out there? Marie, are you getting any questions? Okay, awesome. Well, I think that probably covers it then. So again, thank you everybody for joining us. If you are watching us on Facebook and you're seeing this after we are live, thank you for joining us and watching. Again, the links to our lesson pages, our faculty pages, our classes, our registration pages are in our links. And we do have some upcoming events, so if you're interested in other instruments, we are going to be having one of these Q&A sessions for voice lessons this Saturday at 3 p.m. with both of our voice teachers, Ken and Rachel. So either join us on Facebook Live, or send me an email. My email is Sarah, SARAH, at WorcesterMusicAcademy.com, and we'll put that in the comments as well, so you have that. So feel free to email me for those links. After the holidays, we will be doing one on guitar lessons. That'll be on Saturday, January 9th at 1 p.m. And then we will be doing an all-school, kind of like general, all instruments voice, learn more about the school Q&A session on Saturday, June. We're just getting into winter, not summer. January 16th at 11 a.m. So we will be putting more information out there as those get closer. If you have not liked us on Facebook, please do it. Follow us or like us. Just search for WorcesterMusicAcademy.com or Worcester Music Academy. We constantly post updates, events, videos, articles, fun things. Sorry. Hi, Daisy. So feel free to check that out. We also have an Instagram page, Worcester Music Academy, and a YouTube page as well. Just search for Worcester Music Academy, and we have a bunch of videos of our teachers, of our students. So definitely check those out. And that is great, Kim, that you want to sign up. So what I will do, Kim, is I will email you directly. Maybe check your spam folder just to make sure it didn't go into spam. And I'll get you all set up for lessons. And otherwise, thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you, Sam, for your presentation. Thanks, Marie, for moderating today. And I hope everybody has a wonderful evening. Good night.
Good night. Thank you, guys.
Bye.
You're welcome.